Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday, and welcome to another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast, live here on YouTube in the Astro Room. I am your host and your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So, if this is your first time here, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So, this channel is everything astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So, if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, or if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. All right, my love. So this is the weekly astro forecast for the week of November 27th through December 3rd, 2023. So I don't know about you, but I am hella exhausted. I feel like I'm mentally exhausted. I'm physically exhausted. This full moon in Gemini, it's not quite what I thought it was going to be. There's a lot of activity surrounding this full moon, but I also feel like the energy is very draining. And I've heard from a lot of other people that they're just feeling exhausted. They're tired. Their brain hurts. Like, it's a lot going on. So if you see that I'm a little low energy, that's probably why. Because I also haven't been sleeping well over the last couple of nights. Something about full moons, particularly this one, has made my sleep very sort of disturbed. And I also feel like the dreams have been vivid but extremely weird. I don't know about you, but let me know. Let me know in the chat if you are live right now how this full moon in Gemini is affecting you, or if you're watching this on the replay, hit the comment section and let me know how this full moon is treating you, because it is definitely an interesting one. All right, so apart from the full moon, we are starting, or we are about to enter one of our favorite seasons. And no, it's not the holiday season. It's Mercury retrograde season. Our favorite, right? So Mercury has already entered the pre-shadow phase of its retrograde period. So December is going to be an interesting one, right? And more so because Mercury is in a very interesting sign for this retrograde. Mercury is actually entering Capricorn this week. So, although the holidays can be a time of fun and parties and people kind of winding things down, Mercury in Capricorn is going to have us taking life very seriously, taking business very seriously, having serious conversations. So this Mercury transit over this next month is going to kind of throw a monkey wrench in some of our holiday shenanigans. Let's just say that. All right. So always an interesting time. All right. Let's see. Someone just commented. Baby, I have felt aggravated. Right. So have I. So have I. It's been one of those situations where, like, I kind of just wanted to withdraw. Like, this full moon has just been there's been a lot of meaningless chatter, I'll say, a lot of information swirling about, but I also feel like I've wanted to withdraw. I felt like I'm just not even trying to hear all of that. Like, and what makes it even worse is that, this has been, the holiday weekend, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, all that stuff. Like, I was supposed to do a whole bunch of social media stuff, and I was just like, I just can't. I really just can't. Just feeling drained and exhausted. So, but this too shall pass. The energy of the full moon will be available to us over the next 3 days, and then it's done. So hang in there. Try to get as much rest as you can. Hydrate and mind your damn business. All right. All right. So apart from this full moon in Gemini, apart from Mercury entering Capricorn, we kind of have a pretty regular kind of week. Nothing too crazy. But again, that Mercury in Capricorn, we're going to start to definitely feel it. Number one, because Capricorn is an earth sign. So with Mercury being in Capricorn, a lot of realness, a lot of tangibility comes with this particular transit. With Mercury starting to make its way into retrograde season, be mindful of what you say, be mindful of what you ingest, basically what you're listening to, what you give your attention to. Things are going to get real soon. All right. So before I get ahead of myself, as always, housekeeping and announcements. So if you are joining me here on the live tonight, thank you so much for tuning in. I sincerely appreciate you. If you wouldn't mind saying hi on your way in the chat, and also hitting that like button on your way in as well. If you are watching this on the replay, I appreciate you just as much. Hopefully, you find that this broadcast has a lot of information, confirmation, clarity, enlightenment, whatever you're looking for. Hopefully, you find it here in this broadcast. And if so, please hit that like button, the subscribe button, the notification button, share, do all of that stuff as well. Okay. So, as far as announcements, of course, we have a new month upon us. So, on Wednesday at 9:30, I'll be going live, same place, same time, to talk about the December monthly astro forecast. All right. December shouldn't be too bad. Well, it's not really that bad, but there is still a lot to talk about because there's a lot of cosmic activity going down next month, right? And next month being the end of the fiscal year, I will be doing my 2024 videos. So I'll be doing the general astrology. I'll be going live sometime in early December to do the general astrology for 2024. And then in mid-December, I will be releasing videos for every single sign, every single rising sign with a 2024 forecast. All right. So stick around, stay tuned for that. And of course, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll be notified when all of that drops. All right. Now, the other important information or the other important announcement is that I have opened my books for my 2024 yearly readings. All right. So it is basically a 2024 transit report where I give you all of the important transits, all of the important information that you'll need to know for 2024. You not only get a written report, but you also get a 60-minute online consultation via Zoom. And I also pull some cards. So basically, it gives you a comprehensive view of what 2024 is going to look like specifically for you. All right. And so spots are already starting to fill up. So please, if you are interested, definitely order and book today. All right. And that information will not only be linked to the video, but will also be linked in the description box below. All right. And as always, if you are someone who is new to astrology and you have no idea what's going on, or maybe you've started studying astrology and you're like, wow, this is a lot. I can't retain all this information. I've got you covered. So I created this thing called the Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet, which gives you the quick and dirty on everything you need to know to start studying astrology, mainly the 4 pillars of astrology, which are the planets, the houses, the zodiac signs, and the aspects. So it's an 11-page PDF document that gives you a short, sweet, and concise summary of all of these things so you can start committing them to memory, because regardless of what anyone says or doesn't say, astrology is indeed a science. It's science, it's divination, it's just wonderful, but it is a science. And like any science, it requires a good deal of study. So to help you start studying, I created this cheat sheet. So if you are interested, the link to that will be in the description box below. All right. So that is it by way of announcements and housekeeping. So let's get into it. So I already alluded to the fact that, we've got this Mercury transit coming up, which is happening this week, but it's also kicking off a Mercury retrograde season that we're about to enter into. And if you've watched any of my other lives, any of my videos, you will understand that retrograde is not something to be feared. It is not something for you to be afraid of, anxious about. Retrograde is just a do-over. Retrograde is a time for you to slow down and be intentional, okay? And that's exactly what we're going to have available to us beginning this week, specifically with Mercury going into Capricorn. It's about getting serious. And I really kind of like this kind of energy for the end of the year, right? Because of course, there's all of the holiday stuff, right? Which is great. But, you kind of want to finish the year off strong. You kind of want to either tie up loose ends or start planning and strategizing and maybe even taking action steps for the next fiscal year, which starts in a little over a month, right? And so Mercury in Capricorn allows you to really get down to business, and it allows you to have a thought process and a mental state that's pretty realistic, right? Because Capricorn is a sign that's all about being realistic. It's all about being grounded, but it's also about achievement and success. So what I love the most about this transit, and I think I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm really just talking about it right now, but what I love the most about it is that it allows you to either see with a realistic eye where you've fallen short, like meaning where you haven't, been doing enough work. Maybe you haven't been diligent, or maybe you haven't been going in the right direction. You'll be able to assess that in a very real and tangible way. And in doing so, that's how you can self-correct, and that's how you can get on the right track, at least going forward into the new year, right? or it can also sort of have you in this very, and now I want to say rigid, right? And that is a word that would be associated with Capricorn, is rigid. But it's also this very structured and disciplined mindset that allows you to set yourself up for success. And I think that's why I like this transit the most, especially as it's happening at this point in time, right at the end of the year, because again, it allows you to finish up strong, and it definitely allows you to set yourself up for a successful new year. And with us going into 2024, and I am getting ahead of myself here, but fuck it, let's just go on this ride. 2024 is an 8-year numerology, according to the numerology, okay? And so the 8 has everything to do with abundance. However, it's abundance that is gained from hard work. And so maybe if you've been slacking off for most of 2023, Mercury in Capricorn will at least have you in that last little bit of 2023 kind of getting your shit together so that maybe you can enjoy some sort of abundance in 2024, or at least structure yourself and understand where you need to be more disciplined and diligent with the work that you're doing going into 2024. So again, I think that it's a great transit, and this is the transit that I would say this is the most important transit of the week. However, we are still within that full moon in Gemini energy, which may be kicking your ass right now, right? But for better or for worse, we're in it. We're using it to our advantage, and then we're moving on to serious business. All right. So without further ado, let's get into it. And of course, we always start with the highlights. So first, we have what I like to call information overload, right? And that is the full moon in Gemini. So if you haven't watched my video on the full moon in Gemini that I dropped the other day, please do. I'll leave the link to that in the description box below. Basically, in that video, I talk all about how this full moon is just chock full of information. It may enlighten you as to things you may need to learn, or it may enlighten you as to information that you've been relying on. But in true Gemini fashion, the energy of this full moon is a little chaotic. It's a little mixy. It's a little all over the place. There's a lot of stuff being thrown at us, a lot of stuff in our ears, a lot of information, a lot of disinformation that may be vying for our attention. So it's a time of a lot of distractions also. I don't know if you've been getting distracted, but if all you got to do is, open up Instagram or turn on the news, and you will see a bunch of distractions, right? And so many of us are finding that we've just got a lot of information being thrown at us, right? And so that is the essence of this full moon in Gemini energy, among other things. Next, we have what I like to call serious business, and this is Mercury entering Capricorn. When it comes to this particular transit, not only is it great to set yourself up work-wise, right, going into 2024, it's also great for business, negotiations, contracts, things like that. So when I say serious business, emphasis on the business, all right? So this is the time to really get your shit together, especially if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're someone who's like in sales or marketing or anything like that. This is the time where you really either want to put a plan together or continue to work the plan that you've already put in place, okay? And then finally, we have what I like to call relationship revelations, okay? And we've got 2 Venus transits this week, which are going to enlighten us with respect to our relationships. Now, this enlightenment may be not exactly feel goody. For some, it may be. For others, not so much. But either way, we are going to understand ourselves via our relationships a lot more this week. All right. Venus is in her home sign of Libra, so she is really doing her thing. Her energy is very potent. So this theme of relationships is definitely going to be emphasized this week. And speaking of the week, let's look at it on a granular level and see what we got going on. So today is Monday, so we've got that full moon in Gemini. We've also got Mercury square Neptune. Then tomorrow, we've got that first Venus transit that I was just talking about. We've got Venus opposite the North Node. And the North Node has a lot to do with fate, destiny. Think of the North Node as your North Star, okay? Then on Wednesday, we have the moon moving into its home sign of Cancer. Then on Friday, we've got Mercury in Capricorn, the star sort of transit of the week, and the moon moving into Leo. Thereafter, on Saturday, we have Mercury making a fortuitous sextile to Saturn. And then we close out the week on Sunday with Venus's second transit of the week, which is a square to Pluto, and the moon moving into Virgo. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So today we've got that full moon in Gemini. So you will see the sun is at 4 degrees Sagittarius at the bottom left hand portion of the chart. Oh, and I didn't highlight the moon, but the moon is exactly opposite in the sign of Gemini at 4 degrees Gemini. And then we also have Mercury, which is at 24 degrees Sagittarius, also the bottom left hand portion of the chart. And it's going to be square to Neptune, which is at 24 degrees Pisces. All right. So I don't have to go too much into this full moon because I did a whole dedicated video on it. So if you want to know more, and like I said, the energy of the full moon is available to us 3 days before and 3 days after. So even though the full moon is today, basically up until Thursday, that energy is still available to you. So if you haven't checked out that video, please do. But again, this is all about information. This is about information you've relied on, information that may be useful to you, misinformation, disinformation, distractions. Again, Gemini energy is very mixy. However, the point I feel like of this whole full moon is to illuminate you as to perhaps what you've learned or what you need to learn. Okay. For some, you may realize that perhaps a piece of information that you've been relying on is not so reliable. For others, you're realizing that maybe there's certain things that you want to accomplish, or maybe some goals that you want to set for yourself that require you to learn some skills, or maybe require you to communicate certain things with certain people. Now, remember, this all depends. However, this full moon plays out all depends on where it's going down in your natal chart. So you're gonna want to look at where you're gonna want to look at your natal chart and look at where Gemini is. This is where all of this is going down. But either way, this all has a lot to do with information and change. Because now that we have this new information, right? You know that phrase, when you know better, you do better. And so if you're enlightened, if you've learned some new things, if you are now accessing new information, you can do better and make changes in your life. So you're going to want to be very vigilant as to what sort of information is coming to you. What are you learning? Who are you talking to at this full moon? It may clue you in as to maybe what you need to learn more of, who you need to talk more to, or perhaps some goals, some plans, and some ideas that you want to start formulating so that you can move forward successfully into the future. All right. And again, if you want to know more about that full moon, check out that video I just dropped the other day. Okay. Then next up, we've got Mercury square Neptune. And this may be, now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like this may be why people are feeling a bit exhausted. Mercury, the energy of Mercury has a lot to do with ideas and communication. It's very sort of fact-based, detail-oriented. Mercury not only rules Gemini, but it also rules Virgo. So we know Virgo is all about the details, right? So information, when we talk about it in a Mercury kind of sense, is very fact-based, detail-oriented, very real, right? Contrast that with Neptune. Neptune is dreamy, it's illusory, it's fantastical, it's a bit confusing. And so on the one hand, you may be getting all this barrage of information, but with this particular Mercury square Neptune transit, you don't know if you can trust it. You may feel a little confused. You may feel like you don't necessarily know what's going on. You know, you're being told things, you're having these conversations, and it's like, can I really trust this person? Like, is this for real? Like, I don't know about you, but there have been points over the last couple of days where it's like life has felt like a dream. Like things haven't felt as real as maybe they normally do, right? And that's due in part to this Mercury square Neptune transit, okay? So it's important to understand sort of how this plays out and what to do with this energy. And I just said with that full moon in Gemini, if you're gaining information, if you're gaining access to new information, this is the information that you're going to want to use to move forward successfully, right? But keep in mind, with this Mercury square Neptune transit, things may not necessarily be what they seem at first glance. This is a perfect example of why you should think things over and sort of let the fog dissipate before making any sudden moves or making any decisions, okay? Because again, things aren't necessarily going to be what they appear to be. Your imagination could be getting the better of you. And trust and believe, I feel like I've been grappling with this all day. Like I feel like the littlest thing, I feel like my imagination is just like turning it up all the way. And I'm starting to imagine things that probably are very far from the truth. Let's just say that. Okay. So if you find that your imagination is all over the place, or you don't necessarily know if what you're hearing makes sense, just don't act on it right now. Store it in your mental notebook. And when this transit passes, which it will in the next couple of days, things may become a lot clearer to you. Or at that point, you may get more clarity, or maybe further conversations may clear up whatever you were confused about. Okay. So this is definitely one of those situations where you don't want to make any important decisions right now. Again, any information that you're gaining from this full moon, like, hold on to it. And when the time is right, when things are not so dreamy, foggy, and, unrealistic, then you can sort of act on them. All right. Um, and understand that one of the sort of negative sides of this transit is that it lends itself to it lends itself to people scamming you, taking advantage of you, whatever. And I feel like this barrage of information that we're getting at this full moon, it's rife with disinformation. It's rife with information that may be blown out of proportion, or that's just lies or whatever, right? So be mindful of what you're hearing. Be mindful of what you're ingesting in terms of what you're giving your attention to, who you're listening to, who you're taking advice from, because it may not be within your best interest at this point. So just keep that in mind. And again, all you have to do is ride out the transit. I mean, life is life, right? We don't always have the luxury of delaying certain things. There may be an important decision that you have to make. You may have to sign a contract right now. This business deal may not be able to wait, right? And I say, when you're in those kind of situations, you always want to get trusted advice from a professional, or someone who knows the situation well, someone who may be objective, right? Because they're not going to be caught up in the fantasy of necessarily whatever's going on. So seek trusted advice if you have to make important decisions. But if you can delay some shit, delay it so that you're not like on cloud nine making decisions that won't necessarily be in your best. It may not be that favorable to you later on. All right. So take all that with a grain of salt, for better or for worse, right? Okay. So that is Monday. Let's move on to Tuesday. All right, so next up on Tuesday, Next up on Tuesday, we've got Venus opposite the North Node. All right, so at the bottom of the chart, you will see Venus at, I guess that's 23 degrees Libra. And at the very top of the chart, the opposite side, you'll see the North Node, which is at about 24 degrees of Aries. Okay, so let's discuss. So I sort of alluded to this before, but the North Node has everything to do with fate, destiny. It's your North Star, right? It's sort of where you want to go. And currently the North Node is in Aries. And when the North Node is in Aries, we tend to be very selfish. We tend to be headstrong. We tend to be very focused on where we want to go. It's almost like you have this goal and you're not willing to give it up for anybody. You are willing to sacrifice for it. You're willing to defend it to the death sometimes. But you want what you want where you want to go, and you're not willing to compromise on that, right? That's the North Node in Aries. And then enter Venus in Libra, her home sign of Libra, right? So number one, her energy is really potent because she's at home. Number two, Libra is all about compromise. It's all about other people, right? So you may find that under this transit, you may have friction or tension or even opposition when it comes to what you want to do, and perhaps what other people want to do, or perhaps what other people want you to do. So it's kind of like this seesaw where on the one hand, it's like, well, I kind of need to consider other people. I kind of need to take into account what they're feeling, what their opinion is, because maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a loved one, maybe it's a partner or a spouse, right? And you can't just make decisions willy-nilly without really including them, or at least informing them, right? Whereas that North Node in Aries is like, well, fuck them. Like, I'm going where I need to go. I'm doing what I need to do. Like, it's that very selfish, headstrong energy. So it's really important that you try to find a healthy medium between the two. Provided, however, that the other person, right? The person who you are in a relationship with, when it comes to the North Node, like I said, it's all about where we need to go. But sometimes we find that relationships that are closest to us, relationships that we're in, are not necessarily in alignment with where we're going. Sometimes, a lot of times, our relationships are reflective of who we were or where we've been. So, under this transit, it may show you that your relationships may be a reflection of who you used to be. Perhaps before you knew where you were trying to go, but perhaps before you knew what your North Star was, you had these relationships. And it's not to say that they're bad relationships now. It's just to say that they may not be in alignment with your future. They may not even be in alignment with your present either. And so for some, this may be a rather difficult transit because you kind of have to pick between yourself and somebody else. Right. And depending on the relationship, it may be you're picking neither. Right. You're kind of just finding a happy medium. Whereas in other relationships, it really is a tug of war between you and this other person. And you kind of just have to work it out. Right. You have to figure out are you, first of all, really in alignment with where you're trying to go? Or do you even know what your North Star is? Right. That's number one. Number two, how does this relationship vibe with that? Does this relationship align with it? Is it supportive of whatever you're trying to do? Or is it holding you back, right? Is it keeping you stagnant, or is it even dragging you back into the past? These are some of the issues that may present themselves under this transit. What relationships are in alignment with where you're ultimately trying to go? Who you ultimately are at your core? Do these relationships reflect that? So it's going to be one of those situations where some relationships may be put to the test, or you may realize this may be the first time you're realizing that, hey, this doesn't, like, I thought we were on the same page and maybe we're not so much anymore. So a lot of conversations may come out of this, right? And with all of this Mercury energy, right? With the full moon in Gemini ruled by Mercury, Mercury getting set to go into Capricorn, this may lend itself to having serious conversations. Didn't I say that before? Mercury in Capricorn is like you having really adult, serious conversations. And perhaps some of these conversations may be centered around relationships or your particular relationship as it pertains to this Venus opposite North Node transit. So keep that in mind. And as much as it can be dramatic, as much as it can be uncomfortable, like this is what helps real relationships solidify. It's not just about the fluff and the love and all of that stuff. Mercury in Capricorn is here to let you know that sometimes things have to be serious. Sometimes things are not all fun and games. It's not all lovey-dovey. Sometimes we need to have hard, difficult conversations. And perhaps you may be having that this week, or something may happen this week that lends itself to having this serious conversation later on down the line. All right. But ultimately, it's for the best. Okay. So that's Tuesday. Let's keep it moving. All right, so on Wednesday, we have the moon moving into its home sign of Cancer, and you will see that at the top portion of the chart, okay? So when the moon is in Cancer, the moon is extremely comfortable, and we tend to want to be comfortable. Not just comfortable, but we want to feel safe, we want to feel secure, we want to feel good, right? Whenever the moon is in Cancer, we have an instinctive need for peace and quiet. When the moon is in Cancer, we tend to get very emotional. We tend to get very moody. This is the moon when we typically have a lot of mood swings and everyone's really sensitive, and you kind of just want to feel comforted. You want to feel good, right? It's Cancer is a water sign. So water has everything to do with our emotions. So when the moon, a planet that has to do with emotions is in a watery sign like Cancer, you can expect the waterworks. You can expect a lot of sensitivity. You can also expect things like telepathy, psychic abilities, vivid dreams. So you're definitely going to want to pay attention to your dreams midweek. They may have some very important messages to convey to you. But I would say that my favorite aspect of Cancer energy, particularly when the moon is in Cancer, is that it has a lot of healing potential. Cancer has everything to do with mothering, with nurturing, with being nurtured, right? Every time I think of Cancer, I always think of nurses. Nurses are very emblematic of Cancerian energy. So when the moon is in Cancer, there's a lot of healing potential, especially when it comes to our basic emotional needs like love, shelter, food, protection, being cared for, all of those things, right? And so while this isn't like a moon in Scorpio where you'd be doing shadow work, it is a great time to figure out what you need and perhaps have the necessary conversations with whoever is in a position to give you what you need to make sure that they're giving it to you, right? Not necessarily easy by any means, but maybe necessary depending on your particular situation. Now, when the moon is in Cancer, we also love domestic activities. It's a great time in the lunar cycle to spend time with family. It's a great time to spend time with women, particularly mother figures. Being at home, being comfortable, eating well, all of that stuff thrives when the moon is in Cancer. All right. Now, I know it's going to be midweek, and sometimes midweek is really hard to get into that homey, homebody kind of energy. But if you can, it's definitely worth doing. Now, we have the full moon in Gemini today. And so that means from today until the next 2 weeks, meaning until the next new moon, we are in the waning phase. So this is all about shedding what no longer serves us. So when the moon is in Cancer, we're really focusing, like I said before, on our basic emotional needs. And anything that's not in alignment with that or anything that's not fulfilling those needs may need to be rearranged in your life, right? I said it may lend itself to having some sort of conversation with the person who, was supposed to give you these things, right? Um, Understanding what you need and releasing anything that is not in alignment with that is the best use of the energy, of the waning energy while the moon is in Cancer. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, so on Friday, we've got Mercury moving into Capricorn, and you will see that at the upper left-hand portion of the chart. And we also have the moon moving into Leo, and you'll see that at the right-hand portion of the chart. All right. So I really talked about this before, so there isn't too much to reiterate about this transit, other than the fact that it's a very serious sort of transit in the sense that think of Mercury as like a toddler, okay? Mercury is all over the place. It's curious. It's into everything. It's touching things. It's talking to people. It's shaking the cat. It's doing a whole bunch of shit, right? Mercury in Capricorn is like an adult taking that toddler and sitting them down and making them eat or making them do their homework or making them just sit in silence, right? Maybe they're being punished and they need to have a timeout. That's sort of how Mercury and Capricorn may feel, okay? We may want to do 1,000,001 things, right? Mercury is all about ideas. So Mercury lends itself to mental activities, brainstorming, planning, right? You may have all these wonderful ideas, especially with the Mercury having just been in Sagittarius. Mercury in Sagittarius will have you thinking a plethora of ideas, and not even little ideas. I'm talking about like big dreams, big ideas. Mercury in Sagittarius is like, oh, we want to run a marathon. We want to climb Mount Everest. We want to go to Bali 4 times next year, right? So this is where we're coming from with Mercury and Sagittarius. We're like, yes, we could do this. We could do that. I'm going to be a lawyer next week. We're going to do all of this shit, right? And then Mercury in Capricorn is like, oh, so you want to go to Bali 4 times next year, right? With what money? You have Bali money like that? Okay. Oh, you want to go back to school, but you're not disciplined enough. Like, are you sure that you can take on a whole upper level course load right now? Okay. Oh, you want to climb Mount Everest, but you still sit on the couch every night and eat potato chips. Like, are you sure about that? That is how Mercury in Capricorn is going to be operating. It's going to give you a very sobering look whatever ideas you've got going on. And yes, it does feel like a wet blanket on your picnic, right? Like it feels annoying. It's very limiting and it's constricting, right? But ultimately, it gets you to be realistic, which for better or for worse is necessary sometimes. But it also gets you to be structured and disciplined. It's not to say that you can't climb Mount Everest, but understand the amount of work and training it's going to take to do so. That's what Mercury in Capricorn wants you to understand. It wants you to be realistic. Don't give up the dream, but how badly do you want it? What are you willing to do, realistically speaking, to put that idea, to make that idea into a reality? That's exactly what Mercury in Capricorn is going to ask of you, right? And like I said before, Mercury and Capricorn, serious conversations, and of course, you want to look at where Capricorn is in your natal chart. This will let you know sort of what area of life things are going to get serious in, right? Let's say you've got Capricorn as your seventh house, which means that you're a Cancer rising. Seventh house is relationships, particularly marriages and partnerships. So this is where things are going to get a little serious. This is where you're going to have serious conversations, but serious conversations aren't necessarily a bad thing. Capricorn is your seventh house. Mercury moving into Capricorn means that maybe you're talking about marriage. Maybe you're planning marriage. Maybe you're asking someone to marry you. Maybe you're taking your relationship to the next level. Serious doesn't always mean bad. Serious can mean good. Serious can mean long term. And that is a phrase that is very emblematic of Capricorn energy, long term. This is not the time for flash in the pan ideas. It's not the time for short, meaningless conversations or gossip or anything like that. Mercury in Capricorn wants you to make long-term, solid plans. Remember when I said at the beginning of this broadcast that this particular transit is great? It's a great way to finish off the year because you're either finishing strong, like maybe you haven't been as productive as you kind of wanted to be this year. Mercury and Capricorn can sort of get you back on the horse and get you really putting all your ducks in a row so that you can at least start next year off strong. It's also a great way to get to work, right? Work is necessary. Even though you want to go to all the holiday parties, you want to eat all the holiday food, you kind of just want to take a break and check out. Mercury and Capricorn, it's not going to let you off the hook so easily. Remember I said Mercury is like a toddler and Capricorn is like, I'm going to need you to sit down and eat your food. And I'm going to stand here until you finish eating it, right? That's kind of how life is going to feel. And then Mercury is going to go retrograde in Capricorn. So it's really going to take you back in time and get you to really fix some things, get you to restructure some things. So again, so you can finish the year off strong and start the next year off really well. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Again, it's a time to get to work. It's a time to, I don't know why. I number these pages and then I get completely lost. There we go. Okay. Again, it's about seriousness. It's about having serious conversations. Mercury also rules like business transactions, sales, negotiations. So Mercury in Capricorn is like, this is literally the time to get to work, right? Fourth quarter typically tends to be not just the busiest time, again, Mercury and that toddler energy, but that's the time where a lot of businesses can actually get into the black, right? That's when a lot more people are shopping, all things considered, right? But it's a time for you to really get serious about your business. And so definitely use Mercury in Capricorn energy for just that, okay? But also keep in mind, I think one of the negative aspects of this particular transit is that it can make you very rigid in your thinking. It lends itself to being sort of narrow-minded. And rather than thinking outside of the box, like Mercury in Sagittarius, you really tend to think about things in a very traditional sort of sense. You rely more on the tried and true rather than sort of blazing your own trail and figuring things out on your own. And while doing so is not inherently a bad thing, it also depends on what you're relying on. Remember I said before, this full moon in Gemini may have you realizing that a lot of the information you've been relying on isn't so reliable anymore. And with Mercury in Capricorn, now you can start to Base your ideas on new information. Structure your way of thinking based on new information you likely have gained at this full moon in Gemini. So again, you definitely want to be cognizant of what you're listening to, what you're being told, what you're overhearing. Okay, there may be a lot of aha moments in the next couple of days, so use that information to your advantage and solidify that into a new mindset once Mercury goes into Capricorn. Okay, now one of the things I like about Mercury in Capricorn, and it's sort of a mundane example, but when I tell you what this is, I'm pretty sure that you'll just get it, right? Mercury in Capricorn is very sarcastic. Now, Mercury energy, apart from just being a toddler, Mercury energy is very trickster like. It's very mischievous, okay? When Mercury is in Capricorn, it tends to be very sarcastic with a dry kind of humor. Very dry, what just came to mind? Seinfeld. That kind of humor seems very Mercury and Capricornish, right? So just be mindful of that. Again, especially this week with that Mercury square Neptune, you don't necessarily know if the information you're getting is real. You may also have people who are just sarcastic as hell right now. Like people are just saying things but not really meaning it in a very sarcastic tone. So definitely this week, take whatever you hear with a grain of salt. It may be real. It may not be real. It may be sarcastic. It may not be. Try not to get your panties in a bunch. Just take it with a grain of salt and keep it moving. All right. Another facet of this particular transit that I think is important to mention is that it'll have us being concerned about success, and it'll have us being concerned about our reputation and our responsibilities. So, how we appear in public, what other people think about us, becomes a little more important when Mercury is in Capricorn. Also, our duties and responsibilities, they may be taking up more mental space right now. And by duties and responsibilities, I mean perhaps the duties you have to your family, the duties that you have at work, your chores, your mundane responsibilities may be really living in your head rent free during this transit. Particularly, this transit is going to last a while because Mercury is going to go retrograde in Capricorn. So Mercury in Capricorn is here to stay until mid-January or so. So get comfortable with that because that's where all of this is going down, right? But use it to your advantage. Yes, we don't always like to think about our responsibilities. We don't always want to be realistic. Sometimes we want to live with our head in the clouds and living in our imagination. There's definitely a time and a place for that. But there's also a time and a place for realism. There's also a time and a place to handle your business. It's also a time and a place to have serious conversations. There's even a time and a place for sarcasm, right? So use it to your advantage, right? And I feel like this transit also allows you to be sensible, reasonable, level headed. This isn't like Mercury in Aries where you're ready to pop off at a moment's notice. Like, this is where you actually take the time to think about things. And you're going to want to do that because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn rules time. When it comes to your ideas, even when it comes to certain communications, it's all about finding the realistically right time and also taking the time to think things over. This isn't a transit where you're going to be feeling impulsive or where you're going to want to blaze a new trail or break the mold. This is kind of like where you want to put your nose to the grindstone, get to work, and think things through. I think if you do that, you can definitely take advantage of this transit and use it to structure yourself. So again, you finish the year strong and you start the next year off right. Okay. And then at the same time, same day, we have the moon moving into Leo. And it's a weird, let me not say weird, but it's an interesting juxtaposition where you've got Mercury in Capricorn and the moon in Leo. I just talked about ad nauseum at that, how serious Mercury in Capricorn is, right? You think about your responsibilities, think things through, all of that stuff that I just said. Then we have the moon in Leo, and Leo is all about playful energy. It's all about having fun. It's all about being lighthearted, right? So this may be a time where you got your responsibilities on your mind. You're doing some serious work, but that moon in Leo is having you feel like, I don't feel like doing it. I just want to go out. I just want to have fun. I want to engage. I want to go to the movies. I want to do whatever, right? So it may behoove you to be a little less serious going into the weekend, right? That moon in Leo is going to want to have you socializing, having fun, maybe hanging out with your kids, doing some playful stuff, entertaining, all of that good stuff. Take advantage of that because, like I said, Mercury is going to be in Capricorn for a little bit. So you're going to need to get comfortable. So rather than get serious right out the gate, that moon in Leo is going to have you being a little playful. It may lighten the mood a little bit. It may even lighten your thoughts a little bit with respect to everything that's going on. So that's not a bad thing either, right? The astrology is what it is, but the astrology is also here to help us. So rather than all of a sudden, all of this responsibility being dumped on you and your mind just being flooded with all of this seriousness, the astrology is like, oh, okay, well, before things get too serious, why don't you go out tonight? Why don't you go to a movie? Why don't you go play a game? Play with your kids or whatever, right? Like the astrology is literally giving you a helping hand with that. So take advantage. All right, let's keep it moving. All right. So on Saturday, we've got Mercury sextile Saturn. So Mercury, like I said, just entered Capricorn the day before, and you'll see that at the upper left-hand portion of the chart. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And so Saturn is Saturn is in Pisces, and you'll see that at the second red circle, which is at the bottom left-hand portion of the chart. So this is interesting because Mercury just entered Capricorn. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So everything I said about seriousness, doubly so because Mercury is in aspect to Saturn. However, because it is a sextile, it's great for, so everything positive that I mentioned about Mercury entering Capricorn, when Mercury is sextile Saturn, you can use all of that to your advantage, right? You can use it to catch up on work, especially work that you've neglected or work that you've put off, like chores or something like that. Perhaps this is a time where maybe you're in school or maybe you're studying for something. This is a great transit to study, to do research, any of that stuff. Perhaps if you're interested in something, right? This is the time when you're going to want to research it, talk to people about it, get more information about it, okay? Business dealings are definitely favored, even though it's the weekend. We're in holiday season, so this is the time to really make sales, engage in marketing, sign contracts, negotiate, all of that good stuff, right? It's all about what you make of it. And even though it may feel daunting, it may feel serious, if you do the work, the rewards will come. Sextiles are all about taking opportunities. It's not about things just falling into your lap. It's like you literally have to get up and do something in order to take advantage of the opportunity. So it's one of those transits where it's like, okay, I don't want to clean up my office. I don't want to get my paperwork in order. But if I do it now, that means that when I go back to work on Monday, everything will be organized and I'll be able to work more efficiently. Or, there's this life insurance policy that I've been meaning to get, but I've been putting it off. All right, let me do the research and figure it out. And let me talk to the agent on Monday and sort of get this solidified, right? You're not going to need it now, but when you do need it, at least you did the legwork so that you can have it, right? It's one of those kind of things. It's perhaps doing stuff that isn't so sexy, that isn't so fun, but it's realistic and it's necessary, right? It's adulting. Saturn and Capricorn, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, think of it as a parent. Like I said before, with that example of the toddler and the parent, right? Saturn is typically a male parent, so a father figure, a grandfather. And you know how some of these adult male figures can be very stern, can be very it can be a disciplinarian, right? But ultimately, the whole point of that, well, hopefully in their case, the point of that is to give you some structure. As much as we want to dream, as much as we want to imagine things, right? Everything is mental. We still live here on Earth in the 3D. If you are unstructured, it won't, you likely won't be successful. And Saturn is all about structure for success. So, whatever tasks you've been putting off, Whatever chores you haven't done, you're going to want to do them on Saturday. And Saturday is actually Saturn Day. That's where we get Saturday, the word Saturday from. Saturdays are ruled by Saturn. That's why a lot of people tend to do chores on Saturday, because that's the element of that disciplinarian and structure of Saturn. So again, whatever you need to do, just do it. Just bite the bullet and do it. There will be plenty of time for socializing, plenty of time for doing whatever. But it's almost like, you know what? You got to do your homework first before you get to play. This is the transit where you want to do your homework, because once you do your homework, not only will you get to play, but that homework will reward you later on. All right. So definitely think about that when you get invited to go out for drinks, but you've got a whole bunch of laundry sitting on your bed that needs to be folded. Or maybe you need to go through some paperwork and you're like, I don't feel like doing this. Let me go out tonight. That not taking care of it is going to come back to bite you in the ass later on when you really need it. So this is the transit to just get it done, get to work, and then you can play later. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, so finally we make it to Sunday, and on Sunday we've got the second Venus transit for the week, which is Venus square Pluto. Okay. And you will see Venus at the bottom left-hand portion of the chart at 29 degrees Libra. And then you will see Pluto at 28 degrees Capricorn at the right-hand portion of the chart. And then we also have the moon moving into Virgo. You see that at the very left-hand portion of the chart with the moon at 0 degrees Virgo. Okay. Venus square Pluto. This is always a very interesting transit to me because it really puts an emphasis and an exclamation point on relationships. Now, Venus is still in her home sign of Libra, so relationships are going to be emphasized anyway. But Pluto intensifies things. Think of Pluto as like a nuclear bomb. She said this is too loud. Think of Pluto as like a nuclear bomb. It like, right? Intensifies things. And with Pluto currently in Capricorn, when we're talking about Venus square Pluto, it's sort of like the structure of your relationships. Are they fair? Are they equitable? Are they beautiful? Right? The foundation of your relationship may be coming into focus with Venus square Pluto. When I say relationship, it's not just romantic. You have to look at where these two planets are, or I should say where Libra and Capricorn are in your natal chart. This will let you know which relationships may be emphasized at this time. But because Libra has a lot to do with relationships, period, it's kind of like all relationships are coming into focus. And what are they structured on? Are they structured on love? Are they structured on obsession? Are they structured on money? Are they structured on status? Are they fair and equitable? These are the questions that this particular transit is going to ask of you. It's not even going to ask it of you because, like I said, Pluto is like a nuclear bomb. It's going to show up hard body in your face, for better or for worse. If you've got a good relationship that's structured on what you would like it to be structured on, then no problem. It may even intensify things, right? But if your relationship is on some bullshit, if it's on some shit you don't want, that's going to be painfully emphasized at this point, okay? And the thing with Pluto is that Pluto rules death and rebirth. So whatever happens at this time with your relationships is undoubtedly going to be some sort of major turning point in them. So like I said, if you've got a great relationship that is structured exactly how you want it to be, then this could be the turning point that turns your relationship up a notch, right? And it could turn it into a marriage. It could turn it into whatever, right? Good to go. But if it's not, this could be a turning point that could lead to breakup, separation, divorce, cutting people off, ghosting people even, right? Like it could be that kind of situation. Pluto can Pluto can also be very nasty in the sense that Pluto can be manipulative. Pluto can make you, this is where people are giving people ultimatums. This is where people are stalking people, obsessed with people, jealous and possessive. Like, if your relationship has any of those undercurrents, that is going to be emphasized at this particular transit. So, for better or for worse, you're going to see exactly who you've been dealing with. Okay. And word to the wise, Pluto can also be a little violent and abusive. So you want to be very mindful of that kind of behavior as well. This is one of those situations where, you get into a relationship and this person looks great on paper and they're treating you well, but you notice that they tend to be a little possessive. And as time goes on, they're really jealous. They always want to know who you're talking to. They're always checking your phone. Then all of a sudden you notice that they put a tracking device on your car and they show up to places even when you didn't tell them where you were going. Like, this is how this transit can play itself out, right? That obsessive compulsive behavior, that jealousy that either you overlooked before or you thought was cute, it ain't gonna be cute under this transit. So be mindful and do what you need to do. Like I said, Pluto is also about transformation. So this may be a major turning point in your relationship. Because trust and believe, if the red flags have been red flagging all this time, they're only going to get louder. And if you decide to ignore them at this juncture and under this transit, oh, baby, they're only going to get worse. They're only going to get worse and they're only going to get louder. So you know what to do. Or maybe you don't know what to do. If you don't know what to do, talk to somebody. But figure it out, because either way, things can either go in a good direction or not so good direction. But you get to decide. All right. Intense, but necessary. The astrology, the universe, let me not say the astrology, the universe always gives us what we need, right? And sometimes what we need is not pretty, but it ultimately leads us in the right direction. This particular transit, it's a way of cleaning house. It's a way of getting rid of what no longer serves you. It's an out for a relationship that is not of your highest good, okay? So keep that in mind and keep it moving, right? And then we close out the week with the moon in Virgo. And the moon in Virgo is sort of akin to that Capricorn energy. It's all about sort of your responsibilities. It's all about things being realistic. It's all about organization, cleaning up, and being efficient. When the moon is in Virgo, that's exactly what we want to do. So by and large, between Saturday and Sunday, apart from this Venus square Pluto implosion, right? This is a weekend to get chores done. That Mercury sextile Saturn that I spoke about before, coupled with the moon in Virgo, this is the week to clean, do laundry, tend to your paperwork, get your house in order, do all of those things. Because again, if you do your homework, you get to play later on. Okay. So that is how we close out the week. All right. So now we've gotten the astrology out of the way. Let's get some messages from Spirit and see what Spirit is talking about this week. All right. So let me just get some water real quick. So, of course, going to be pulling some cards for messages from Spirit. Now, I do these by sign. Now, whatever message resonates with you is your message. It could be your sun, your moon, your rising, your Venus, your Jupiter, your North Node. Doesn't matter. If it's your message, it's your message. All right. So, as always, we will start with Aries. So let's see what we've got for Aries for this week. Aries, we've got the Page of Pentacles. So I feel like I heard learning something new. Now, this is giving me very Mercury vibes, even though this is a pentacle, right? Think of it as like Virgo. Virgo is also ruled by Mercury. I'm hearing like learning something new and learning something new that's valuable. So you might be learning a new skill that you can use perhaps to make more money, or maybe a skill that you can monetize to make more money. Others of you are learning something extremely valuable, perhaps about someone. Something that, okay, here's what I'm seeing. You know, when you have your ideal relationship and you sort of have your criteria, you may be learning that someone fits your criteria or someone fits into your ideal of a relationship. Okay. Either way, this is a week of valuable information, whether you're learning it or whether you are discovering it. Okay. So this is a week where you want to listen more than you speak. And that might be a little difficult for you. I'm not trying to throw shade your way, but y'all can be real extra. But you need to listen this week. There's some valuable information that's coming your way that can either result in a really great relationship or more money. Okay. All right. Next up, we've got Taurus. Let's see what we've got for Taurus for this week. Okay, Taurus, I like this for you. We've got the 10 of Cups. So you guys are thinking a lot about marriage, a lot about family, a lot about what would emotionally fulfill you. But I feel like this is marriage. You guys are thinking about this a lot. And I feel like you're thinking about it and it feels good to you. Some of you may even feel this undercurrent of something good about to happen in the relationship department. But by and large, I feel like you just have marriage, love, family, all of that feel good energy on the brain this week. And I feel like you like it that way. You like it that way. And I sort of get this feeling of like joyful expectation. Like maybe you have this already and you feel like it's going to get better. Or you don't have this yet, but you feel like it's not that far away. All right. So enjoy this feeling and meditate on this. The more you meditate on this feeling, the more likely it is to come to fruition. Okay. All right. So that is that. We're up to Gemini. Let's see what we've got for Gemini for this week. Okay, Gemini. Gemini, you guys are feeling a little down in the dumps this week. For some, I feel like you are replaying something that has not worked out for you. For some of you, you're filled with sorrow and regret, grief, sadness. Like you're just kind of down in the dumps this week. And with the full moon going down in your sign, I feel like maybe some information has come to light that wasn't necessarily pleasant, or maybe you uncovered something or learned something about someone that is like, it's almost like someone has knocked over all of your glasses, right? And they've left this big mess. And now you're sort of left to clean it up. And that kind of has you feeling like this. But see, I want you to notice that there are 3 cups here and they've fallen, but there's 2 cups back here that are still upright. Whatever you lost pales in comparison to what is right behind you, what you can't see, perhaps what is yet to come, or perhaps someone or something that's been under your nose this entire time. Allow yourself to feel how you're going to feel. So if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling regretful, allow those feelings to come up. Don't suppress them, but try not to stay too much in this energy because, again, what you've lost pales in comparison to what you actually still have. Okay. Next up is Cancer. Let's see what we have for Cancer for this week. Oh, okay, that one shot out. But I am inclined to take it. All right, Cancer, you've got the 6 of Cups. So there is something or someone from the past that's really on your mind this week. I feel like there's a situation from the past that brought you a lot of joy, brought you a lot of happiness. See how he's like bringing her flowers? This could even be like a gift from the past from someone that you value. I feel like you are thinking about them a lot, and I'm hearing like you might even hear from them. This may be the result of someone from your past like randomly reaching out to you, or if you're thinking about them so much or thinking about the situation so much, it's almost like you like You manifest them. So let's say there's someone from high school that you think about, and then all of a sudden they hit you up on Facebook, or all of a sudden they find your number and they call you, right? I feel like it's one of those situations. But whatever this is, it's almost like this situation was like you in what you believe to be was your heyday. Like that was when you were on and popping. That's maybe when you looked your best. That's maybe when you had the best time of your life. And seeing this person, speaking to this person, reminiscing about this person even is going to take you back to that energy. And I feel like that's what you need right now. I feel like life has bogged you down a little bit. And I feel like bringing up this past may be the refresh and the reset that you need to sort of get out of this rut or get over this hump. All right. So think about this. And if that person does call, talk to them, because I feel like it's going to make you feel a lot better. And again, it's going to have you feeling refreshed. All right. So that was Cancer. So next up, we've got Leo. Let's see what we have for Leo this week. All right, Leo, you have the 9 of Wands. So you guys are feeling quite defensive. I feel like there is someone or something. Okay, this is what I'm hearing. You are anticipating someone coming your way or a particular situation, and you feel like you have to brace yourself for a fight. If you notice the look on this guy's face, he's like, look, he looks like he's ready to fight, right? But he's also torn and tattered. Like he's been through a lot, and he realizes that he has to keep fighting. And I feel like you think that there's a particular situation or a particular person to whom this resonates or to whom this applies. And I'm here to say that I think that this is just a perception of yours. I don't think it's the reality of the situation. So if you're thinking that you're going to, like, for instance, maybe you have a business deal with someone and you feel like, oh, this person's going to give you a hard time. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. I think that's just your perception. I think that it's actually going to go a lot better than you think. Now, it may not be that this person just completely acquiesces to whatever you say, but I think it's not going to be the fight that you're gearing up for. So while you should have your guard up a little bit, right? Again, I'm not going to say that things are going to go completely smoothly. Don't feel like you have to brace yourself for an all-out war. I think that this situation or this encounter or interaction with this person is going to go better than you anticipate. Okay. Next up, we've got Virgo. Let's see what we've got for Virgo for this week. All right, Virgo, we've got the Hanged Man. Now, this particular energy, it's giving like lots of time to think. I see you guys are mulling something over. Rather than being proactive about something or rather than acting on something, you guys are like, you know what? I'm just going to take a step back and just think about this for a minute. Some of you feel like your mind has gotten the better of you lately, and you're like, yeah, I need to take a couple of seats and I need to really think about this, really think this through. So I feel like there's, I want to say a lack of communication, but what I mean by that is, so let's say you have someone that you regularly engage with. I see that you're not engaging with them as much this week. Maybe there's places that you go, people that you interact with. I see a little bit of withdrawal because you kind of just want to get yourself situated and you want to get clear on whatever the situation is. So I feel like even though this is the Hanged Man, and the Hanged Man does represent like a timeout, it's also giving me, like, I'm also seeing the Hermit card in my mind. So it's like you're kind of retreating, withdrawing. You're kind of just stopping things in their tracks so you can really understand what the situation is about. So you can really analyze what people are saying or what you've overheard or what you've learned in order to make a really informed decision. So I feel like this is going to be a quiet week where you've kind of, like I said, taking a step back and figuring out what's what before deciding, before committing, before taking any action. Okay. Next up is Libra. Let's see what we've got for Libra for this week. Ooh, these cards are just flying all over the place. All right, Libra. we've got the Eight of Pentacles. This is about mastering your craft. Now, I find that the messages for this week for everyone, it's really indicative of what is on your mind, right? Especially with this full moon and Gemini energy and all of this information. I feel like everyone's reading is about what is predominantly on your mind this week. And for you, Libra, it is work, perfecting your craft, thinking about your career, thinking about how far you've come, and thinking about where you want to go. Perhaps you've got a full workload this week and your mind is just on your responsibilities, right? Especially with Mercury going into Capricorn. For others of you, you're just taking stock of your industry. You're thinking about your company. You're thinking about just work in general. Like I'm seeing like a lot of different thoughts, whether big, whether small, whether vague, whether detailed, just having to do with work. And figuring out what is the best course of action to take. Some of you are putting a plan of action together when it comes to work, when it comes to career. For some, I'm hearing certifications, like what certifications do I need to go to the next level? For others, it's like just thinking about, okay, how can I do my job better? Or I've been in this industry for X amount of years. Maybe it's time to make a switch, or maybe it's time to go up the corporate ladder, right? Regardless, I feel like the predominant thoughts for you this week are all on work and career. All right. Next up, we've got Scorpio. Let's see what we've got for Scorpio for this week. All right, Scorpio, you've got the Nine of Swords. You guys are very stressed out about something. Something is keeping you up at night, and you are definitely at your wit's end. This is definitely a situation that's been ongoing. And even if it's not keeping you up at night, it's like you're ruminating about this thing, whether it's a situation, whether it's a person, but in kind of an anxious sort of way. You're not thinking about this situation with joy or with pleasure. You're either, it's almost like I can see a whole bunch of gears moving in your head. You're strategizing. And for some, it's giving you a headache. For others, it's like you're just mentally exhausted because you're either trying to think of a solution to something, or there's been things haven't worked out exactly as you would have liked in this situation or with this person, and you're trying to figure out a way to get things back on track. And it's like you're racking your brain trying to come up with this solution. It's almost like you're trying to figure out a complex math problem. And I feel like you kind of just need to let it go for a little bit rather than continuing to rack your brain and stress yourself out. Like, just put it down for a moment. It's not going anywhere. Put it down for a moment. Do something else. Allow something else to occupy your mind, and then come back to this situation, come back to this issue, come back to this person even refreshed. And I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to find a solution at that point. Okay? All right. That was Scorpio. Now we are up to Sagittarius. Sagittarius, we've got the Seven of Wands. You guys are feeling very defensive. I'm hearing like it's me against the world. You feel like everyone is against you. You feel like so many people are trying to poke holes at what you're doing. But take a good look at this guy's position. He is above all of those other wands, right? Like, you're in a very good position, and anyone who's trying to poke holes in what you're doing or is a naysayer, they're not necessarily on your level. However, I feel like your imagination may be getting the better of you, and I feel like for some, I'm not saying that you are making this up by any means, but I think that your fear and your frustration are making this into perhaps a bigger issue than it really is. Okay. Of course, there's always times where there's haters. There's always times where there are people who don't necessarily agree with what we're doing, but don't allow your relationship to make it feel as though it's an all-out war with people, or that people are out to get you, or some conspiracy theory type shit, right? You're in a good position. Like I said, you see, all these sticks are down here. He's up here. You're in a good position. Let people say whatever they're going to say. Let people think whatever they're going to think. It's irrelevant because you're obviously a step ahead of them. So don't get caught up in the riffraff. Excuse me. Don't get caught up in the peanut gallery. Keep doing you and let people say or think whatever they're going to say or think. Okay? Next up, we've got Capricorn. Let's see what we've got for Capricorn for this week. Capricorn, you guys have the Hierophant. You guys are feeling high and mighty this week. For some, you're feeling like your words hold weight, especially when Mercury goes into your sign. I feel like your ability to be an authority figure, your ability to be a leader is going to be heightened. And that's exactly how you're feeling this week. Like you guys are like on your high horse, almost as if whatever you say is gospel, right? You feel like people really need to listen to you this week. You feel like you have a lot of important things to say. And I feel like for some, you feel like what you have to say or your ideas can really lead people in the right direction. So some of you, I'm getting like a shepherd with sheep. Like you're trying to herd these people to be in alignment with your idea, to be in alignment with your plan, because you believe that your plan is for the good of everyone. And I have to say that Spirit is like, you're probably right. You're probably right. Whatever idea you have, whatever plan you're trying to execute, it really is good for everybody. Now, everyone might not think that what you have to say is gospel, but I do think that you have the ability to lead people in the right direction. So I definitely, once Mercury goes into your sign, I feel like this is a time for you to step up and be a leader. This is a time for you to step up and be vocal. And this is the time for you to shepherd people into a particular thing or a situation or a direction, because wherever you're leading them is a pretty good place to go. Don't get gassed though. Like, yeah, this is how you're feeling. And yes, you may be right about your ideas or your viewpoint or your structures even, but don't let it get to your head. Don't become a tyrant. This isn't like what you say is gospel. They have to follow you. It's more so, it's a gentle suggestion, but it is a step in the right direction. Okay. Next up is Aquarius. Let's see what we've got for Aquarius. Aquarius, we've got the Strength card. So someone may be trying to quiet you. You may have a lot to say. Again, Mercury has a lot to do with thoughts and ideas, but it also has to do with communication. I feel like you guys have a lot to say, and someone may be trying to silence you or quiet you. Someone doesn't necessarily want to hear your roar. Someone doesn't necessarily want to, they don't want to hear you because they're kind of afraid of your power. They're kind of afraid of what you have to say. Maybe you're shedding light on something about them. Maybe you are telling someone about themselves, right? And they're not trying to hear all that. So rather than hear you, they're trying to silence you. And you kind of have to have the strength and the fortitude to not allow yourself to be silenced. This is the time for you to roar. This is the time for you to communicate. This is the time for you to let whoever know whatever it is they need to know. Okay. So if you find that you're met with resistance, if you find that people are trying to quiet you, they're trying to talk over you, this is when you need to speak up. This is when you need to exercise that throat chakra and roar. Okay. This is a week for you to be loud. Loud. Try not to be loud and wrong though. Right? Like that's never a good look. Loud and wrong is not good. However, if you have something to say, say it. And last but certainly not least, we've got Pisces. Let's see what we've got for Pisces for this week. Pisces, we've got the Six of Pentacles. I feel like there's help coming in this week, particularly of a financial sense. So this could be money coming in. This could be assistance coming in. This could be guidance coming in. But more so, this is a card of reciprocity. What you give, you get. So if you're working, this is getting money directly in proportion to the amount of work that you're putting in. This is, for some, this is being charitable. Maybe this is time for you to help others depending on what your particular situation is. But either way, I feel like this is a week of reciprocity. It's a week of even Stevens, right? The work, the money that you get is directly proportional to the work that you put in. Whatever you need assistance with, someone will step in and assist you with that. And it's just all around a feel good week. I feel like money is looking pretty balanced. And again, if you need the help, you'll get it. And for some, this may be a time to help out others. All right. All right, my love. So that concludes this edition of the weekly Astro Forecast. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you could use going into this week. All right. For all of my products and services, that'll be linked in the description box below or tagged to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing week, and I will see you guys in my next video. All right, my loves. Take